We talked about execution of a baby after birth. And you can say what you want, but that's extreme and that's radical, and nobody should have that, and it has to be ended.
In the midst of internal chaos, the Republican Speaker of the House, MAGA Mike Johnson, made a pilgrimage down to Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, to stand behind, next to, and in front of Trump to say everything's good, we're all on the same page, everything's great. A lot of the point of this is because of increased tension between MAGA Mike Johnson and some elements of the Republican Party like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is increasingly signaling, he may be next to go after Kevin McCarthy as well. So MAGA Mike Johnson flies down to Florida, and then they do a press conference. Really weird press conference with Trump in Florida. And we're going to look at a couple elements here. And at the top line, Trump repeating this totally grotesque and debunked lie that Democrats, and specifically Democratic mothers in blue states, are murdering their babies. Trump repeating this yet again.
For having the courage to do it. What they did is very simply give it back to the state. And I'll tell you, the Democrats are the radicals on this because they're willing to have abortions in the 7th, 8th, 9th month. They're even willing, and you can call it what you want, but you go back to the governor of Virginia, the previous governor of Virginia, the Democrat governor of Virginia, we talked about execution of a baby after birth. And you can say what you want, but that's extreme and that's radical, and nobody should have that.
Well, you can say what you want, including that it's not happening and it's not a thing, and that would be called murder of a birthed person, and it's just a grotesque, disgusting, misogynistic lie that continues to perpetuate. It is true that there is a very small percentage of abortions that take place in the 3rd trimester. Of that, they are overwhelmingly taking place at the beginning of the 7th month. These are increasingly dire, complex medical situations where the mother's life can be on the line, but they continue to repeat it time and time and time again. Trump's position on abortion is so increasingly incoherent because it's all about, I'll say whatever you want as long as you vote for me. A reporter actually says to Trump, are you pro-choice or are you pro-life? Which one is it? And Trump doesn't answer the question. Listen to this.
Excuse me, please.
Just a follow-up. Over the last few decades, Mr. President, you have both considered yourself pro-choice and pro-life. Which one is it?
Well, you know exactly which one it is. And when I was in New York and when I was a Democrat also, just like Ronald Reagan. You know, Ronald Reagan was a Democrat. We sort of followed a very similar path. But if you look at what we've done with Roe v. Wade, we did something that everyone said couldn't be done, and we got it done. And I give great credit to the Supreme Court and the justices for having the courage to do it. What they did is very simply give it back to the state. And I'll tell you, the Democrats are the radicals on this because they're willing to have abortions in the 7th, 8th,
All right, so then he goes back to that talking point. But again, no real answer here. Call me whatever you want. Let states do whatever that they want to do. If you're happy with what a state did, vote for me. Thank me for getting that done. If you're unhappy with what a state did, don't blame me. It was the state's decision. Whatever, just vote for me is what Trump should be saying in response to these questions about abortion at this point in time. Then we hear from MAGA Mike Johnson. MAGA Mike Johnson then announces he's going to introduce a bill to require proof of citizenship to vote, which, by the way, you can't even register to vote unless you're a citizen. You can't even register to vote. And Trump kind of looking upset with a scowl on his face.
Republicans are introducing a bill that will require proof of citizenship to vote. It seems like common sense. I'm sure all of us would agree. We only want U.S. citizens to vote in U.S. elections.
Yeah, and those are the only folks who can get on the voter rolls. So quite literally, only American citizens can vote.
But there are some Democrats who don't want to do that. We believe that one of their designs, one of the reasons for this open border, which everybody asks all around the country, why would they do this? Why would they allow all this chaos? Why the violence? Because they want to turn these people into voters. Right now, the administration is encouraging illegals to go to their local welfare office to sign up for benefits.
So listen, hold on, there's a few more seconds.
Well, guess what? When you go to a welfare office, they also ask you if you would like to register to vote.
Yeah. So two things on this. If they are legal immigrants, of course we should be encouraging them to register to vote. Why wouldn't we want every legal citizen, if they are legal immigrants who are citizens, why shouldn't they be voting? They should be encouraged to register to vote because they have the same right as everybody else as naturalized immigrants to the United States, like me, right? I mean, I get, why shouldn't I be encouraged to vote? On the other hand, if you're an undocumented immigrant, you can't even register. So this is a complete misdirection, and it's all in service of setting up more claims that if Biden wins, it was stolen. That's what the plan is. They've done it before. They're going to do it again. And lastly, here is MAGA Mike Johnson saying everywhere, this is like they came to me with tears in their eyes and they said, sir, sort of story. MAGA Mike Johnson says the number one concern he's hearing from people when he goes different places is about election integrity.
And incumbents all around. I've been to 23 states now in the last several weeks, and everywhere we go, one of the first questions that people ask about is this issue of election integrity. The border is the number one issue in America. There's never been a political issue that scored so high in the polls as a matter of concern. And it doesn't matter where anyone lives, because as we say now, every state is a border state. They're deeply concerned about that. And election integrity is tied to the lack of border security. President Biden has created a catastrophe, and he did it by...
Anyway, you get the point here. And of course, those who have examined this professionally, like our former prior guest on the show, Ken Block, have said there is no state where the small number of irregularities comes even a fraction of a fraction of a fraction close to having made a difference in that state. So the idea that even non-border states are worried about undocumented immigration because undocumented immigrants are voting and stealing the election, not even plausibly happening in a single state. And Mike Johnson says people are coming up to him to talk about it. Now, if people are coming up to him to talk about it, it would be because the Republican Party has spent 3 years telling them this is the number one issue, even though it's not really an issue. But more than likely, the stories are completely fabricated. So Trump having MAGA Mike Johnson down there, I guess to try to run a little interference about the internal Republican conflict that is again threatening to rip the party further apart. Trump didn't seem super happy to have MAGA Mike down there. MAGA Mike making his pilgrimage and saying everything he's expected to say. We'll see now if Marjorie Taylor Greene calms down with her recent attacks on MAGA Mike Johnson. It is time to start thinking like voters and to make sure that kids understand the importance of voting, how it works, registering, ballot initiatives, because so many kids just have no idea. That's why I wrote the new children's book, Think Like a Voter. I can think of no better time and no more important group of folks to try to reach. The book is now available at davidpakman.com/book, where, by the way, you can get the first 2 books in the series as well. Think Like a Detective and Think Like a Scientist. Really important stuff. Donate them to local libraries, classrooms, read them with the kids. davidpakman.com/book.